Today we will present you the penultimate passage, which must be treated from 53 minutes 48 seconds to 57 minutes 22 seconds, in reference to chapter 18 of the novel Never Let Me Go, written by Kazuo Ishiguro. We will proceed to the analysis of the various plans presented in the film work between the different possible interpretation of the scene, as well as a thorough analysis of the different components of this passage between the soundtrack, the color used, or the camera angles.
So, our passage begins with Kathy leaving a tear after listening to Ruth talking about her relationship with Tony. This plan focus on the face put in profile aims to show the emotion of sadness, rather random, because when we start our passage, if we haven't seen the previous one, we can think that it just doesn't go well at the center. However, it turns out that the sadness is due to her own choices during this scene, and so at this moment in the original work, Kathy regrets her choices. This is how we move on the next plan, where Kathy, our protagonist, will announce her desire to become a carer.
The beginning of our passage really begins here. A new day begins, the sun begins to rise in the sky. We see a gentleman, the driver of the van of the National Donor Program, tinkering, before seeing Katie, played by actress Carey Mulligan, appear on the scene of a determined step. The scene environment is silent as we are waiting for an announcement, which Callie is really going to do, asking this gentleman if she can get a form to become carer. The scene takes place at the beginning of the day, potentially highlighting the notion of new start. Every day is a new beginning, and Callie announcement sounds like a new beginning of her new life. And we can therefore consider this staging as a reference to the beginning of Katie career.
In cinematic terms, it is an extreme wide shot that makes the character look really small and sort of insignificant. It enables the two actors to stay away from each other even if they are together on the camera. The farm is thanks to the extreme wide angle. The farm is all around the screen, and it surrounds the character like if they are in a cage, and the only way Katy can escape the place and so the scene is by going off screen, which here can imply going away from the center. Moreover, this large angle shot allows us to see the scenery clearly. The colors are either cold or dark ones, or both of it. Nothing brings any feeling of joy or some kind. The place appears poor and kind of out of time. The only things that keep the public in the right time is the car, which tells us, okay, car exists, for example, and the character's clothes. But taking that away, the place could be anywhere and pretty much at any time. Plus, after a better look, we can notice a camera on the roof next to the large gate. It looks really modern, and it accentuates the fact that in such a modern time, the place looks really poor, and it also gives the feeling that the institution taking care of the clones are okay with paying a lot for keeping them under surveillance, but they don't really care about their comfort, which leads to something that we will learn later on in the movie. Clones are not considered as having a soul, and so they are not considered as human. And one last detail that we can notice on the scene is the fact that behind the farm, on the horizon, we can only see a field and the sky. It looks extremely isolated and in the middle of nowhere, in fact. So we have isolated characters in an isolated place.
The soundtrack with melancholy sounds led by a violin is triggered at the Cathy release. On the previous wide shot, the new plan focused on a dress lying on the closer line, dancing to the rhythm of wine. A voiceover is introduced. This voiceover is Cathy thought about that nostalgic moment she lived, which shows us memories of when she decided to become a carer. Moreover, the story is based on early separation from Callie and Ruth and Tommy, which would have started before she even made the decision to leave to become carer. In this second shot, we see a dress hanging on a string, like we said just before. Usually when you do the laundry, you wash several things at the same time, but here we find only one dress. Another isolation of something, bringing more and more loneliness. And once again, behind there the fence surrounding the dress, and only nature are in the background. So we find again here a cage in the middle of nowhere, in the same palette of color. Even on the next shot, with a larger angle, the dress is in the cage, fence on one side and the house on the other. It's flying with the wind but unable to escape the sting.
The soundtrack continues to flow in the background, and a new shot appears, putting Cathy in the center and in the foreground, looking behind her before getting into the NDP van. We can understand at this moment that when she looks back, it's like she's looking one last time at what she's going to turn into a past, leaving memories and that dreamy Cathy to move forward into the future by getting in that van. In this shot, Cathy is also is entering the van, but she doesn't open the door nor close it, which can appear at first as a gallant act for someone to open the door and close it for her, but it can also show that even if she's going away, she is still under someone's control, well, this is it. She's not a donor anymore. She's made a choice to become a carer, but it doesn't change the fact that she is still under control. And then the van goes away from the place and also from the camera, going in the direction of the background, which was before known as nowhere because there were nothing. And it gives a feeling of going into the unknown, and yet it stays on the camera. It's not going off screen, so we don't have the feeling of escaping.
When the van starts, it's the beginning of her new life. A scene on Ruth then appeared, centered on her face. Her face is in profile with agitated hand that put in stage. Through this agitation, we can understand that it is the beginning of a long separation that is that will come to the loss of the bonds that united them if we listen to Callie's voiceover. Ruth's confused expression is found on Tommy's face, completely confused by Callie's departure. The different reaction of these two characters claims that something will be broken by time and distance. In addition, the soundtrack, composed of a violin, brings a nostalgic air, but also an atmosphere of sadness, as if sad memories were remembered. Moreover, the plans that follow Ruth and Tommy confuse plans is that of a saddened Katie appearing in the close-up shot, as if she regretted her decision. Her voiceover story underscore these regrets, as she says she wanted to keep stronger ties if she had known what would happen.
So the soundtrack ends and the image fades, which gives a feeling of memory fading before a jump in time that occurs, an ellipsis. So we go in 1994. The environment is completely different from the one in which she lived. We go from a countryside farm to a building in a city, from a calm to an incessant noise. It's presented with a low angle wide shot on a building, and so it makes it look impressive. But the palette of colors, which is still quite the same, makes it look just as poor as the farm. And however, in those colors we can't find the green that was in nature before. It's mostly gray. Even the sky is gray, which makes the whole image looks really sad. And we can add to that in the picture we can see 3 buildings. One in the middle, which we can assume is where Kathy lives, and 2 surrounding it. So on the each side of the camera, one on the left and the other one on the right. And it just feels like the building where Kathy lives is in another cage.
On another hand, in the next shot, her room looks more comfortable than the one she had in the center. The bed especially looks like a hotel one. We find here for the first time of this extract something she may be comfortable with. It gives a feeling that being a carer gave her a better life, and probably a comforting feeling she hadn't before. In this scene, Carrie wakes up and had breakfast. In this shot, when she is eating, she is facing a wall which tells us that it's a lonely life. But the colors are lighter than on the previous shot, which again give us comforting feeling to the public. We can also find some touch of life in the picture with the light green of the apples on the background, or the plant on her table that look quite healthy. The voiceover, still here in the shot, continues to tell her life, that of a carer life. Her work no longer gives her time to think about Ruth and Tommy, something that did not seem to worry her at the time, while the voiceover seems to imply a feeling of regret. Callie says waiting to become a donor, so the plan put her on stage, sitting at a table in front of the wall, as I said just before, but here we can see that even during the meal, she was constantly waiting for her hour to come.
The end of our passage approaches, and a new scene appears. Kathy leaves her home, locking her door before moving away in the hallway. We can notice that a routine is established and that her remark that being a carer suits her perfectly shows that a certain time has passed since her decision, that she seemed to regret at the time. Although also the place looks quite clean outside, which is not usually the case in such buildings, it makes it look like it's far from being isolated like the farm was. People are taking good care of the place. Plus, one more time, we thanks to the wide shot, we can find green on the image. The door of her neighbors is. Then the camera moves and we see Kathy going down the corridor, and everything looks clean and quite nice, in fact.
The final shot puts Kathy in the driver's seat, driving to a center or hospital to do her duty. This last shot, in this last shot, we see Kathy from behind, which allows us to see her hands on the steering wheel. So she's driving by herself, and it finally gives us a feeling of freedom. So comparing to the before, after, that she became a carer, it feels like she gained comfort in the physical way and in her mind, and also she gained maybe freedom.
To conclude, this extract is really an important turn in Kathy's life because it's the moment when she will take the only real choice she will be able to take in her whole life. As we know, the crone's life is controlled from the birth to the death, but Kathy takes the choice. She has to become a carer, and as it's shown in the extract, she won't regret it, even if it won't change her purpose as a crone. It will give her a little comfort, and the public will have an opportunity to feel it.